What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the CPS Reports. On today's episode, I'll be touching base on UFC 293 main event, particularly with the feature fight, the co-main event, and the main event. So let me just dive in straight away with the featured fight, Manal Kape versus Felipe dos Santos. What a performance from both fighters! I tell you, it's one of the best fights I've seen for the night, bar the main event. Must be honest, I have not seen much of Manal Kape fight before, as well as Felipe dos Santos. Although we know Felipe dos Santos was supposed to fight on the Contender Series and took this fight on short notice. Manal Kape was scheduled to fight Kai Carter France. Unfortunately, Kai Carter France was unable to make the fight. Thus stepped in Felipe dos Santos. A little bit on the background of the guy: he does shooter boxing. He fights with or trains with Charles Oliveira. Coming into this fight, I didn't really know who to pick, but I was hoping to see something fantastic, and that's exactly what we got. Fight was fairly close for both round 1, 2, and 3. Although Manal Kape scored a knockdown on Felipe dos Santos, that did not display a complete dominant fight for Manal Kape. The fight was fairly close. Just looking at the numbers, round 1, round 2, and round 3, Manal Kape was literally just outlanding Felipe, literally like 3 to 4 punches per round. It was a very, very close fight. Felipe dos Santos came to show up, and I think win or lose, though he lost that fight, his name will be remembered. I give him about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, and you'll definitely see him in the top 5, definitely challenging for the title. Good display of martial arts, good counter striking, and also good initiative from Manal Kape. He really took the fight to Felipe. That being said, Felipe did not hold back, and he stood his ground, and he gained his respect by landing a couple of good shots. He even had Manal Kape rocked, I think, in the second round or the third round. I can't really remember, but I'm pretty sure I remember seeing him rocked. Although Manal still controlled the majority of the fight. Winning the fight, that means he goes up and he potentially gets the next title shot, or at least the next number one contender fight if Kai Carter France comes back. Judging off the fight I've seen with Manal Kape in that 3 rounds, it's a bit hard to say if it will pose big threats to Aliano Pantoja, as well as Brandon Moreno. It will be one very, very good fight regardless of who he gets. I won't be giving any picks because we don't know if those fights are going to be made. I'm not sure if Brandon Moreno gets an immediate rematch against Alexander Pantoja, but I do know that Manal Kape has definitely put his name in the conversation for whoever wins between the two of them if they get the rematch. Moving on to the co-main event, Tai Tuivasa versus Alexander Volkov. 2 household names, 2 high-ranking fighters in the heavyweight division. And also just a phenomenal fight. Although it didn't go 3 rounds, the fight kind of went the way I imagined it would go, being that even though Tai Tuivasa is a gunslinger man, the man throws a lot of punches, he's got immense power, but for some reason I still feel he lacks mixed martial art prowess, and that was displayed in this fight. If you look at Alexander Volkov, who is a phenomenal kickboxer, has a brilliant deep kick, good striking, good straight down the pipe, not a lot of hooks, just straight down the pipe. And he usually utilizes that a lot in many of his fights, and a lot of his controls come from the front deep kicks and the jabs. And I think if you look at Tai Tuivasa's record or look at his career, when he did fall short, he fell short against a lot of the very talented kickboxers or very powerful strikers that know how to utilize distance and know how to negate the fight and negate where it needs to go. And that was perfectly displayed in this fight, round 1 and 2. So terrible to say, but it was a masterpiece from Volkov and pretty much made it a one-sided fight. The fight didn't go 3 rounds, as I said earlier, and it looks like Volkov pretty much outlanded Tai Tuivasa with a large number, more than doubled Tai Tuivasa's numbers. Brilliant performance. It puts Alexander Volkov on the upward trajectory to a title fight. Does that mean he's number one contender? I'm not too sure. We'll have to see how the heavyweight shapes up after the Stipe Miocic and John Jones fight. But big ups to Alexander Volkov. I thought he fought fantastic. Just a good display of martial arts. What's next for Tai Tuivasa? I think you just gotta stay in it, stay training hard, and sort of just kind of like evolve his game from like, you know, street brawling to, I mean, he uses very good leg kicks, and it was working for most of his attack, but he couldn't really get in because the reach wasn't there. Volkov just maintained his distance really well and pretty much controlled his range throughout the fight. Tai Tuivasa needs to evolve the game, I think, from being the reckless brawler to sort of like learning to find that flow state that most really good martial artists find, so that you can kind of stay in the fight for long and dictate the pace and not just go for that headshot and not just go for the end of the fight very quickly. I think you should work on how to wrestle, clinch game, and just make the fight more in his control rather than just looking for that one-time finish. Moving on to the main event, which was one of my favorite, which was probably my favorite fight of the night. Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya. So this fight played out exactly how I thought it would, just based on looking at the style that Sean Strickland presents to Israel Adesanya, who doesn't necessarily rely on any wrestling or any clinch game. He's a purely counter-striking based fighter. Even when he initiates the fight, you will notice that he initiates a lot with his jab and low kicks before forcing the opponent to come in, which then is at his most dangerous when the opponent is chasing him down. He kind of does this rock'em sock'em where he counters by leaning back and throwing that looping hook. And for most part of his career, this always worked because a lot of the guys end up rushing in and then leaving themselves exposed on the center line. What Sean Strickland did really well was not being very fancy and not necessarily biting on any of Izzy's feints, and just initiating the pressure for the majority of the fight and pretty much conducted how it needed to go. Every time Izzy would kick, he would just check those. Every time Izzy would throw a right hand, which is quite interesting because his right hand doesn't necessarily come straight down the pipe, but usually goes a little bit over like that and then tucking the knuckles in. And this is where Strickland just keeps his high guard and his shoulder rolls, so that whenever his right hand comes over, he pretty much just lifts up his left hand like that, and then gets back in, and pretty much just timed from the A to B punch, which pretty much beat Izzy's looping hook just straight down the pipe and landed a very, very nice knockdown in the first round, which dictated the whole fight, because then Izzy pretty much fought for the whole fight on his back foot, which is not something that he is familiar doing for 25 minutes. If he's going on the back foot, if you look at all his highlight reels, going on the back foot is often where he lands his knockdowns or his knockouts. This is Israel Adesanya now. But Sean Strickland fought the fight in a style that is almost new to martial arts by incorporating a traditional boxing style. Also, I'd like to point out was very different about this fight is that Sean Strickland did not bite with Izzy in terms of like getting into the hype of the fight and like, oh, I'm gonna whip your ass, I'm gonna whip your ass, I'm gonna whip your ass. What Sean Strickland did really well was treated this fight very respectfully. Although all the media was going on prior to the fight with all the back and forth on Twitter and all those things, when it came down to the nitty-gritty and they got into the cage, Sean fought the fight pretty much as if Izzy was in the street or in someone's backyard. Never let up, stayed very close, and like just kept his eyes locked on Izzy. He never ever looked away. He kept his eyes locked on Izzy, always keeping sure where his target is going, and just stayed in his range. I think he backed up a few moments in the second round, but still there wasn't enough danger presented from Izzy for that second round. I think Izzy landed one right hand, which made Sean go back. But I mean, immediately after that second round, getting back out in the third, he just applied the pressure and kept the pressure, which ultimately won him the fight, along with checking all the leg kicks, landing more accurate punches. Although Israel Adesanya has thrown a large number of strikes. A lot of it was deflected. It didn't really land, didn't really do any damage. And Sean didn't throw as much, was way more effective with what he was throwing. Landed, you could see the effects on Israel's face. So big up to Sean Strickland for pretty much putting on a masterclass and a flawless performance. Now, what does that mean for the middleweight division? Just listening to Daniel Cormier over this past week and Mighty Mouse along with Triple C, I kind of agree with what they're saying. I think Israel Adesanya should probably take 6 months. It doesn't have to take a full year. I think it just takes 6 months, take some time off after fighting so many back-to-back fights, and being one of the most consistent fighters in the UFC. I think it would be in his benefit to take that break. Also, adding to that break, I think what Israel should do is also, like Taito Ivasa, evolve his game, utilize more clinch work, utilize more wrestling, if you will, and just add into his arsenal that he already has, because he's got a phenomenal striking game, almost second to none. And I think adding the other part of martial arts, which is the grappling side of it, would only make him a much more tougher opponent for anyone else, and if not, make him probably one of the best to watch and more dangerous for Sean Strickland coming if they fight again. That being said, like I said, Israel taking a break. I would like to see a different opponent for Sean Strickland. Dricus du Plessis, shout out Dricus du Plessis from South Africa. I think he should definitely get the next title shot. Hope he recovers well and gets the next title shot against Sean Strickland, because he deserves that after beating, pardon me. After beating Bobby Knuckles, I think he definitely deserves the title shot. We know that Paulo Costa and Khamzat Chimaev is fighting. I do not think that that's a number one contenders fight, just because Khamzat's not a ranked fighter in the middleweight division and Paulo Costa is ranked 6th. So the winner of that fight should definitely get the loser, the winner of that fight should definitely get the winner of Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis. Jared Cannonier as well has won 2 in a row, and I think he deserves another run at the title shot. Maybe his last one, but I definitely think he's done enough to deserve another title shot. So yeah, let's see what the UFC puts together. They're obviously going to go with what makes the most sense financially, and also hopefully they also go with what makes the most sense in terms of fight for fight, pound for pound kind of fight. So yeah, that's just my take on UFC 203. Stay tuned for when I break down the next pay-per-view, the next UFC fight night, Grasso versus Shevchenko. That's me out, guys. Stay tuned next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you all. Take care.